Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Maria, and I'm so used to saying welcome to the mom series, the misunderstanding of multiplicity, that I have to catch myself every few minutes and just say, welcome to my channel. My name is Maria. Okay, so I will be talking about integration, DID, MPD, and what it's like to be on the other side of a diagnosis that I received in 1986 and lived my life as with more than one. And I came out here 13 years ago to share my experience of what it was like living with dissociative identity disorder, being diagnosed with it, how it was for my family. And of course, I only have a bird's eye view of that because the secondary survivors for so many years felt like they were walking on eggshells. They didn't want to upset me, they didn't want me to switch, disassociate, so panic. So they didn't tell me how they really felt. Um, and now I'm starting to get some good feedback from my adult children and people that knew me through the years. And um, what I can tell you is that being diagnosed with multiple personality, what it was called back in the day, and all the misperceptions and the media hype and the demonization, the criminalization of it, the sensationalism of it in movies, small screen, big screen, is really just stigma. It just adds more stigma. So my channel was always about unbunking, unpackaging what multiple personality really was. In 1994, it was changed to, well, between 1993 and 1994, the name started changing in the committees in psychiatry to DID, Dissociative Identity Disorder. Over the years, I've had many thoughts about that name change. It was said that multiple personalities seemed like too sexy a disorder, and it was getting overdiagnosed. And there was the panic days of the 80s and 90s of SRA and abuse and trauma work, and more cases were showing up. The numbers were huge, and what a lot of doctors were finding is it was being overdiagnosed. Specialty clinics were being made. Doctors were going down rabbit holes, literal rabbit holes, to look for repressed memory and assigning every part or aspect or behavior or feeling that people had that they wouldn't own up to and say, yeah, I did feel that. I do feel that. Excuse me 1 second. This is going to be a spam risk. Okay, we're going to let it ring. It's spam. I'm so thankful for call waiting that tells me spam risk. I get them all day. So if you could bear with the 4 calls, I'll just let it go. So it was really shown in the movies all the time. Fight Club, Identity, Primal Fear. Yes, Split. But Split, I always said was going to be more of a like superpower, more of a sequel, DC kind of. It was going to be more of a, not DC. It's going to be more of a people that were like superhuman type thing. It wasn't going to be really anything that had really to do with DID, so I wasn't too worried about that. But when things were out here in the media that misportrayed MPD, DID, and claimed to be true, I talked about that. Okay, so we all should know now that the case of Shirley Ardell Mason, the late Shirley Ardell Mason, aka Sybil Dorset, was a character name made for a book called Sybil. And Dr. Florence Schreiber, and not Dr. Florence, writer Florence Schreiber, who used to write true crime stories and romance, but mostly true crime stories, got together with, was commissioned by Dr. Cornelia Wilbur. And both of these ladies were looking to make a name for themselves, and with a patient who they were seeing lots of different personality changes. The disorder, the phenomenon, the characteristic of multiple personality through the years has been called many different things. Only the name changes. The treatment, not really that much. The name changes from hysteria the turn of the century, Dr. I thought, well, I'll get all the information for you. Of some books to read. Dr. Jean-Martin Charcot, and Dr. Morton Prince, and many different doctors at the turn of the century called it multiple personality or hysteria. In Paris, they called it hysteria. Dr. Jean-Martin Charcot ran a unit at the Salpêtrière Hospital in France, where women, hysterics, were held. And they were these celebrity patients and writers and poets and spiritual, like priests and archbishops and artists, musicians, came to see these women. So there's kind of a performance to these women, a showing of them that made him very popular in the late 1900s, mid to late 1900s. But then it was just a sham. And we've seen that happen in our time period where multiple personality, there's a lot of awareness. Now it's called DID. Everybody's giving awareness about it. And then it's just a sham. Okay, so it just depends on who's showing and telling what it is. Okay, so basically it's a coping mechanism, like many things that people go through with mental health. It's a means of survival, a form of self-soothing, and it's survival. Now, it used to be thought that there had to be a lot of trauma, a lot of continual trauma between the ages of 0 to 6. Personality was developing. We now know that it can be one trauma. It can be medical procedures. It can be seeing trauma. It could be hearing about trauma. It could be watching TV. These days, it could be watching TV over and over again and seeing the World Trade Center fall. It could be seeing planes come out of the sky. We now know that nobody really knows for sure what traumatizes a child's mind because we don't know what type of resilience they're developing with. But we do know that when that development of resilience is interrupted constantly with trauma between the ages of 0 to 9, that they can develop coping mechanisms where they behave in a manner needed, but then don't remember that behavior and develop different parts, aspects, or ego states. That's called DID. It also usually comes with disassociation, so you don't remember. Then when you start to get better or accept all, you never really accept the trauma, but you never really move on from the trauma. That's why people have post-traumatic stress. It's with you. But you do start to accept all the feelings and emotions that you felt and all the rage and betrayal and distrust and sickening ick and insecurity and shame and pain. You do finally own, and then all the reaction to that and how that made you act. And that a lot of times got put off onto different personalities, blaming different personalities. Once you start owning it all and saying, okay, that's just me. That's just me really sad. That's just me really needy. That's just me a scared kid. That's just me really scared right now. That's just me not trusting a soul in the world. That's just me having a tantrum. That's just me doing what I know worked when I was younger, but it's not working now. Okay. Once we own it, we become integrated. So my channel is moving forward with, now that I am integrated, and I went to therapy for 30 years, and really it started to come together for me in the last 5 years. And a lot of that was looking at the people I was giving permission to to be experts in my life. Looking at other people's opinion, a lot of family that I was looking at and thinking they knew better than me, and they didn't. Thinking they had mine and my children's best interests, and they didn't. Even thinking that the psychiatrists and therapists that I went to, and even the physicians that I went to, and the medications they put me on and everything, that they really had my best interests at heart, and they didn't. What I finally realized is they're very comfortable with keeping me at baseline living. They're very comfortable at just keeping me as like going through life flatlined. Don't react, don't react, don't react. Nobody make you react. You might split. You might switch out. You might become a different personality. Now, I own my rage. I own my fear. I own my disgust and loathing. I own it. And I own my joy and my happiness and my love and my light. And I own every talent I have. I own every mistake I make. Oh, it's ownership of your shit and your good stuff and your bad stuff and all of it. Okay. So today I want to talk about, so moving forward, I will be talking about the integration and how that really subliminally was going on without me even being aware of it. A lot of lessons learned. And how I am not the Maria I was going into this years ago. But I'm not 100 different people or 100 different aspects or parts or alter egos anymore either. But I lost not one of them because they were all me. So gathered them all together and started accepting everything and saying, oh, that's me. First thing I started to do was say I. I started making I statements instead of saying we. We. So many different channels for DID, and I hear people, we woke up this morning, we did this morning, we did that this morning, we. And every other minute, different hair color, different hat, different glasses, different outfit, and they're a different personality. Some of that on TikTok and all around is just play. Some of it is role play, and a lot of it isn't. But they haven't learned to accept all their emotions, trauma, fear, pain, shame, and do the work. Yeah, really haven't. They've been told this is as good as it gets. And one day they'll realize, oh, not so much I don't need that part, alter aspect, but that's just me. You'll realize it. And you'll kick yourself a billion times for having gone through all the torment that you went through with the switching and the headaches and everything else. Okay. But today, what I want to talk about is first, happy birthday to Johnny Depp. I don't know if he watches any channels out here, but I feel like the need to say it. I said in the beginning, I think the jury would bring back a victory for Johnny, and they did. They truly did, and a birthday present for him. So we've had Prince's birthday this week. We've had Johnny Depp today, so it's just cool times, right? But I wanted to say something. I started to make a video earlier today about borderline personality disorder. Because before you get an accurate diagnosis of anything, you're going to hear borderline personality a lot. You're also going to hear borderline personality is comorbid with a lot of things. Now remember, I'm a social worker, but I'm not working as a social worker. And I haven't in a long time, but I still stayed abreast of everything. So if we can think of every characteristic found in depression, and every characteristic found in anxiety, and every characteristic found in early trauma and in childhood, and every characteristic found in post-trauma, and every characteristic found in bipolar, and even some antisocial behavior, or sociopathy, if we could just think of that, depression, anxiety, panic, and some cluster B personality disorders like antisocial and histrionics. First, I want to say something about histrionics. Histrionics was also called multiple personality for years. Okay, I don't want to lose sight of that. It's a cluster B, but in theatrical people and in certain cultures, there are more histrionic people. So it can be cultural, and histrionic cluster B is also, you can find it in every major religion. Every major religion will have a histrionic type personality or cult personality, and they're in the theater too. Okay, so let me give you an example. If you go to church and you're worshiping God and you're at a healing service and people start getting healed, you can have great faith, but a person with histrionic personality will fall right into that and believe it more readily. They'll be a little bit more, I don't want to say gullible, a little bit more vulnerable to it, a little bit more pliable to it. There's a lot of histrionics that goes on with emotional Christianese, emotional religion. Okay, so that's cultural. And then there's family cultural and culture. And some of the cultures, the women and the men can get very histrionic in their behavior. And so can entertainers. So that's just a characteristic. So it doesn't mean anything bad. Okay. What does get a lot of people pissed off is when people hear DID or MPD or BPD, borderline personality, a lot of people will be like, oh, they're sick. Stay away from them. Oh. Today I was at a birthday party bash video for Johnny Depp, and people were talking about Amber Heard, Johnny Depp trial, of course, and one of the guests that called in was talking about Amber Heard having two personality disorders and cluster B and all of it, and he deducted that because of that, and he was in a survivor community where he went to therapy and did the work, but he deducted that the behavior that Amber did was psychotic. So what came out of his mouth was borderline personality, cluster B, histrionic. Of course, it's psychotic. No, it's not. Psychotic is different. But a lot of people are just like, oh my God, I was diagnosed with anxiety and borderline. I was diagnosed with depression and borderline. I was diagnosed with panic disorder and borderline. I was diagnosed with DID and borderline. We can't go around stigmatizing diagnoses. And I want to be clear about a few things. So I'm going to read to you here. Let me put this down and read a little bit. So there's two types of borderline. There's, well, three. Comorbid, quiet, or what some people call high functioning. Here's where we go back to, is there treatment resistant depression, or are they calling it high functioning depression? These are the things the big psychiatric heads fight over, like Dr. David Spiegel, who was on the witness stand. He actually had a lot to do. Dr. David Spiegel, who was on Elaine's witness list there, he actually had a lot to do with changing the name of MPD to DID because he saw that it was ego states, not personalities. You weren't having actual other personalities, you were having different ego states. Now, it did not go unnoticed to me that when all the doctors were testifying, they said that Amber felt like three distinct personalities. Meanwhile, Amber described Johnny as the opiate Johnny, the drunk Johnny, and the violent Johnny. Okay? So you can see how when you start compartmentalizing and naming, how it can become like different personas, but it isn't. It's all one person. So let's look at borderline personality. And this comes from the mighty Juliet V. And you can follow it back to the DSM-5. Borderline personality disorder is a mental illness characterized by trouble regulating one's own emotions, which can lead to painful and unstable interpersonality relationships. Below, we've listed the 9 classic symptoms of BPD outlined in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, the DSM. To receive a diagnosis of borderline personality disorder, a patient typically must meet 5 out of the 9. Let's debunk it. Out of these 9, a person must meet 5. 1. Making frantic efforts to avoid real or imagined abandonment. That's also found in abandonment disorder. It's also found in DID. It's also found in generalized anxiety. It's also found in depression. 2. Having a pattern of unstable relationship, often characterized by idealizing or devaluing a person, also known as black and white thinking or splitting. That's, I'd say, one of the most prevalent. Although, when a person is clinically, systemically depressed, they can only think black and white. When a person is in a cycle of anxiety, they can only think in black and white. And when a person is cycling up with bipolar to hypermania or hypomania, they can only think in black and white too. So that's 2 of the 9 of the 5 needed that can be found in other and together. Okay. 3. Struggling with unstable self-image or identity. It can be found in DID. It can be found in eating disorders. It can be found in substance abuse. All of these can be found in substance abuse. 4. Engaging in risky and impulsive behavior. Substance abuse, alcohol, bipolar, depression, and DID. Having frequent suicidal thoughts or engaging in self-harm. Depression, anxiety disorder, bipolar, mania, and borderline, and DID. Having chronic feeling or experiencing periods of emotional intensity or frequent rapid mood swings. Bipolar 1, 2, mixed. Schizoaffective disorder, anxiety disorder, generalized anxiety and depression, and DID. Having chronic feelings of emptiness, depression, anxiety, panic, bipolar, when you're spiraling down, living with intense or uncontrollable anger. Anybody that's going through grief, extreme grief, with no closure, ambivalent grief. And 9, disassociating or having an out-of-body or disconnected from yourself type of feeling. That's all disassociating is. Some people call it spacing out. When I was in 3rd grade, my teacher said she's spacing out. She's just looking out the window and she's not there. Okay? Out of body. That can also go with eating disorders, body dysmorphia, anxiety, panic, when you're in a panic attack, that can happen. Excuse me 1 second. I'm going to turn that off. Oh, it was a spam call again. Okay, so this is borderline personality disorder. It's not psychotic behavior. Can it lead to psychosis? In an extreme way, in extreme cases, yeah, it can turn a person can begin matrixing in their head, believing that something was done deliberately to them. They can spiral in paranoia. They can spiral in sensitive. I guess the best way to explain borderline personality is a lot of times people with BPD are those people that we think of as being very thin-skinned, very reactionary, but confused in what they want. They say, I love you, I hate you, don't leave me. They extend their hand and they give me your hand, give me your hand, give me your hand. Oh, just hold my hand, hold my hand. And then they bite your hand or they, it's, you can't win when they're in a, what I want to say, flare up of BPD. It is manageable. All of these things are manageable. So when I hear people talking about, oh my God, I can't believe Amber had BPD, I have BPD, and I'm not like that, right? There are tons of people now that are like, holy moly. We love Dr. Shannon Curry. We love how she presented the information. We love that she got muffins. We love everything about her. We love that she actually did tests. But the truth is, the tests that Dr. Shannon Curry were doing are more, like I said before, more forensic, because she's not working with her. So things we often see with BPD is this I love you, I hate you, don't leave me kind of thing. This real fear of rejection, this making mountains out of molehills of everything, escalating it in your head and blowing up people's worlds and your own and not being able to see that. But we also see that in bipolar when a person is spiraling up and then crashing. We also see that in extreme depression when a person is just given up and then they get some energy. Like somebody gives them an antidepressant, now they got energy. We also see that in schizoid affective disorder, which can look like borderline personality with some grandiose and paranoid and even auditory hallucinations. So a little bit of schizophrenia type characteristics with bipolar swings in the mood. The best treatment, it really is a fear of an abandonment. It takes everything way too personal. I'm gonna say I'm looking through real quick. A real beating yourself up. That's true. It's more of a, what I want to say is there's quiet BPD where people go inward. They self-harm, they beat themselves up, and they destroy themselves. And anything that would make them happy, they destroy because that would destroy them. Whereas BPD is more outward, quiet BPD is more self-harm, self-inflicting. And I think that if Amber had BPD, she had what they're calling quiet or high-functioning BPD, which is kind of, high-functioning BPD is kind of like an oxymoron, but BPD is found in so many diagnoses that you kind of got to just wait it out. And doctors will start with BPD, blah, 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 and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And then you start to see what's the dominant feature that's coming into play all the time whenever there's something that happens. And there could be histrionic traits in a very religious person, in a person that engages in magical thinking, in a person that has DID, and then culture. and a person that is looking to the arts can have a lot of histrionics. So I think we just have to be very careful because there is a large, it's very prevalent. It's a very common disorder. It's not rare. Many people are walking around all over the place that have borderline personality disorder, and they are not maliciously setting up a man to be ruined. That is not the usual. It would be going like off the Richter scale. So I just need to say that people with borderline personality disorder are not always violent. They are not always abusers. They are not malicious with motive intent to hurt or harm. Most harm themselves. Okay. So that I wanted to say. What else? DBT works the best for it, ditactyl behavioral treatment, which is a lot of mindfulness, a lot of staying in the here and now, feeling what's going on, identifying what's that emotion, what am I doing, body scan, what's my body doing, what am I getting ready to, how much have I built it up in my head, can I level it down, can I tone it down, bring it down to a manageable level, okay, what's the worst that could happen if I start bringing yourself back together. Because when I think of BPD, I think of blow up. Blow up. No, 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 don't leave me. I think of the cartoons where the woman would grab onto the men's pant and the man would be trying to walk away and the woman would be on the floor going clunk, clunk, clunk as the man's trying to get away. I think of women that throw themselves down the stairs to get their man to come back. That is there is a lot of manipulation in borderline. There's also a lot of manipulation in depression, anxiety, bipolar, DID. And part of my integration was recognizing the manipulation, the things I do to get what I need. So I don't have borderline. I've been thoroughly evaluated, tested. It can be genetic. It can run genetically in families. It can be part of trauma, but it's generally not the main cause of trauma. It's heredity. And it can run comorbid with things. But there is management. There's therapy for it. And it's not a lifelong thing. And when I say this about everything. I think the worst thing we can do is tell ourselves this is a lifelong disease we're going to live with. Whether it's DID, MPD, anxiety, depression, whatever. There comes a point when you begin to follow your own spin and you see, I can work my way out of this. One of the things that I find is the most sad with the Me Too movement and with women that make allegations and men and whoever, children, whatever, is we don't teach children from young. We teach children to imagine. We tell them about the fairy tales. We give them paper and crayons. And we tell them to draw and create and use your imagination and play and pretend, right? We tell them all that. But then when they build it up too much in their brain and it spills out of their mouth, we tell them, don't you dare lie. If you get caught lying, I'll never trust you. Okay. I heard Amber saying that. I heard little girl Amber saying to Johnny, no, I can't take it back. I know it. I know. I didn't mean to. My people wanted me to say it. The lawyers wanted me to say it. I can't take it back. I can't take it back. She was panicking. I can't take it back. I'll be rejected. Nobody will think I'm credible. And Johnny was saying, we say we had volatile moments in our marriage. We say we had good, loving times and we had volatile times and we are amicably splitting without all this stuff You didn't have to make me a monster, an abuser. You didn't have to do this. You didn't have to go this far. It didn't have to escalate to this, and you can fix it. No, my team, again, no, I won't be credible. She had that black and white thinking, that little girl. I'm stuck. I lied. She knew she lied. She knew she lied. Johnny was telling her, you can fix it. He was giving her an out. He was saying, it's okay. We go fix it. You get your team together, I get my team together. I can't stand that people have teams. But everybody needs their tribe, but teams? All right. We need to be careful. Amber has a lot more going. She has a lot more that I think was a combination of, I think she constantly probably compared herself to all of Johnny's girlfriends. And I think she didn't feel good enough on the inside to actually even be with him. And I think she did expect to get more money than she did. Bottom line, she expected. I don't want to speak evil of her. That said, she expected to have all the things that a wife has, including a prenup and be in Johnny's will. That wasn't there. For some reason, that tripped some kind of, he doesn't love me enough. That was it. That was the trigger. Nothing else. Even though 5 of the characteristics of 9 kept coming up on all of her tests that Dr. Shannon Curry did, and she was shown to be trying to feign other disorders a little too hard, like post-traumatic stress. Some of those evaluation tools are not really helpful without ongoing therapy to kind of observe what's going on with the person. So you could take a bunch of tests, and even though there's validity scores that show you if a person's trying to outwit the test and faking on the test, it still doesn't point to the accurate diagnosis. So you must have the therapy, the ongoing therapy. And Dr. Anderson, Johnny and Amber's marriage counselor in 2015, said Amber didn't let anyone get a word in. She was rapid fire talking. Who does that? When a person is caught in a lie, when a child is caught doing something wrong, they get all over the place, right? Did you touch that cookie in the cookie jar? No, I didn't. I saw Jimmy run by, and Susie was in here, and blah, blah, blah. A little too much information there. You either took the cookie or you didn't. So, I mean, that she kind of always did that continuation. And what Dr. Anderson saw is mutual abuse, but Amber being the initiator. And what Amber had said to Dr. Anderson in private, and Dr. Anderson shared, is Amber strikes and hits Johnny to keep him with her. She won't let him leave. She wants him to fight. It's a matter of pride with her. If Johnny walks away, he doesn't care. So she actually would hit him, punch him, strike him to get him to stay, or scream and yell about him killing her or her dying. So, I mean, there's no question she has borderline traits. That doesn't make her psychotic. Did she have a motive that was a different agenda? Did she go too far? Yeah. But we don't give people a place of grace, a space to recant to say, maybe I misspoke. Maybe I really overdid it there. Maybe I believed everything I heard. Maybe my imagination got away from me. Maybe I thought the abuse or the trauma or what I was going through wasn't significant enough that anybody would care, and so I added on to it. And this is my niche. This is what I go for in group dynamics all the time, is to see who's adding on to their story, who's adding more because they don't think their pain is enough. So they're adding more onto it, and then it's not even real. So, I just wanted to mention that because there's a whole lot of people suffering out there that do have BPD, and it's a very stigmatized disorder, and it is manageable. And I like to think of it more like flare-ups. There are times when life gets stressful, when things are going all hookabook and weird, and you lose it. And if you have your tools and your doctor and sometimes medication too, you'll be okay. It's like anything else. There's management for it. It doesn't make a person psychotic. What Amber did to Johnny was nasty. May have been reactionary, triggered from her childhood trauma. Who knows? But I think more than anything, we have to teach women and men and children young that if they lie, they can admit they lied. If they tell a tall tale, they can walk it back and own it without punitive damage, without for the rest of your life, we're not going to believe you. Because that's what I heard with Amber in that audio that was in the court over and over again. Nobody will believe me. I won't be credible. I won't get any work. Escalated to black and white. If I say you didn't do this, if I say I didn't mean this. So I think that's what we need to work on in society. And I just wanted to leave that there for today. So happy Thursday. Happy birthday, Johnny Depp. Happy birthday, Prince, 2 days ago. June 7th. I think some people in Minneapolis, Minnesota are still partying. I think there's been a lot of pancake making, a lot of purple wearing, and a lot of dancing. And I hope everybody has a good day. Thanks for listening. If you like my content, click the button saying you like it, and you'll get notifications. And please subscribe and tell your friends. And I will be sharing more about integration and what's in the news. Take care. Bye-bye.